The United Fleet Council met on a massive space station at the center of the galaxy. It was the most important place in known space, where representatives from every species gathered to make decisions that affected billions of lives. Yuna had never been there before. As a cadet, she never expected to see it. But now she stood outside the council chamber doors, wearing not her cadet uniform, but a simple white dress that Elder Suri had given her. It was traditional architect clothing, she was told. The kind their leaders wore thousands of years ago. Commander Taiwan stood beside her. He had been promoted 3 times in the past week. Word of the vault had spread, and the fleet needed someone to manage the situation. Taiwan was the obvious choice. "Are you ready?" he asked. Yuna shook her head. "No, but I do not think I will ever be ready for this." "Good. That means you are thinking clearly." He smiled, something he rarely did. "The council is afraid. When people are afraid, they act in strange ways. Some will welcome you. Others will hate you. Just speak the truth and let them decide what to do with it." The doors opened. The council chamber was round, with seats rising in circles around the central platform. Hundreds of representatives sat watching. Yuna recognized some of the species: Valkyrie, Norathi, Thelians, Draxi. Others she had never seen before. They all had one thing in common. They were staring at her. She walked to the central platform. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. The council leader was an ancient Thelian named Elder Borum. His crystal body was almost transparent with age, and his voice crackled like static when he spoke. "Cadet Park Yuna of Earth," he said. "You stand before the United Fleet Council to present evidence regarding the origin of your species. Do you understand the importance of this moment?" "Yes, Elder." "Then speak. Tell us what you found." Yuna took a deep breath. She looked around the chamber at all the faces watching her. Some curious, some hostile, some afraid. 12,000 years ago, she began, a civilization ruled this galaxy. They were called the Architects. They built the star routes that connect our worlds. They created the technology that powers our ships. They established the foundations of the society we live in today. She paused. The Architects were human. The chamber exploded with noise. Representatives shouted in a dozen languages. Some stood up from their seats. Others called for order. Elder Borum raised his hand, and slowly the noise faded. "Continue," he said. Yuna held up a small crystal. It glowed with soft light. "This is from the Architect Vault. It contains their history, their message to us." She activated the crystal. Light filled the chamber, and the Architects appeared. Holographic images of human faces, human hands, human voices. They spoke of their civilization, their achievements, their fall. "When the great darkness came, they fled," Yuna continued. "They hid on a small planet at the edge of the galaxy, Earth. They lost their technology. They lost their memories. They became us, humanity." The representatives watched in silence as the images showed the Architects hiding, surviving, starting over. "They left this vault for us to find. Not to prove that we are special, not to claim power over others, but to share what was lost, to restore what was broken." Yuna lowered the crystal. The Architects helped every species in this galaxy. They gave freely. They built bridges, not walls. That is what we want to do. That is why I am here. The chamber was quiet. Then a Valkyrie representative stood. His name was Ambassador Hanyul, and he was known for his harsh criticism of humanity. "This is a trick," he said. "Humans are newcomers, children. They cannot be the descendants of the Architects." "The evidence is clear," Elder Suri said. She had been given a seat on the council for this meeting. The vault, the scanner, the genetic records. Everything matches. "Even if it is true," Haniel continued. What does it change? The architects are gone. Humanity today is not the civilization it once was. You have no claim to their legacy. Una stepped forward. I am not claiming anything. The chamber fell silent again. I am a girl from a fishing town, she said. My parents sell fish. My grandmother told me stories about the stars when I was young. I came to the academy because I wanted to fly, not because I wanted to rule. She looked directly at Haniel. But I learned something these past weeks. Legacy is not about power. It is about responsibility. She gestured at the holographic images still floating in the air. The architects built this galaxy. When they fell, they left everything behind. Their knowledge, their technology, their hope. They trusted that one day, someone would find it and use it for good. She turned slowly, making sure to meet the eyes of every representative. I am not asking you to bow to humanity. I am not asking you to give us special treatment. I am asking you to let us share what we found, to let us help rebuild what was lost, to let us be what the architects wanted us to be, partners, builders, friends. The chamber was completely silent. Even Ambassador Haniel had nothing to say. Elder Borum rose from his seat. Despite his age, his voice was strong. Cadet Park Una, he said, the council will consider your words. We will study the evidence. We will make a decision. He paused. But I want you to know something. I have lived for 3,000 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species grow and die. In all that time, I have never heard anyone speak with more honesty than you did today. He bowed his crystal head. Whatever the council decides, know that I believe you. And I thank you for reminding us what we should be fighting for. The other Thelians bowed as well. Then the Norothi. Then others, one by one, until half the chamber was showing respect. Una felt tears in her eyes, but she did not cry. She stood straight and bowed back. Later, outside the chamber, Commander Taiwan found her standing by a window, looking at the stars. You did well, he said. I do not know if it will be enough. It will be. He stood beside her. Change takes time. Some will resist. Some will never accept the truth. But the truth does not care. It exists whether people believe it or not. Una smiled. My grandmother used to say something like that. Wise woman. She was. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was Bizen, and her parents, and the fish market where she grew up. Somewhere out there was home. What happens now? She asked. Tae-One shrugged. The galaxy keeps turning. The council will argue. People will talk. And you will keep training. He looked at her with something like pride. You wanted to fly, remember? That has not changed. Una laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. No, I suppose it has not. She looked at the stars one more time. The architects had built paths through them. Her ancestors had traveled them. And now she would not as a master, not as a ruler, just as a girl from Bizen who wanted to fly. And that, she decided, was exactly enough. The architect vault was not on the Academy planet. It was on a moon that orbited a dead star at the edge of known space. Elder Suri said that no ship had traveled there in over 5,000 years. The coordinates had been lost, forgotten, buried in records that no one read. But the Heart Archive remembered everything. Commander, Taiwan arranged a small ship for the journey. He brought 2 officers with him, a pilot named Doyen and a security chief named Minho. They did not ask questions. They just followed orders. Una sat alone in the passenger section, watching the stars pass by. She had not slept since the scanning. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the glowing symbols, heard the ancient voice saying, "Welcome home." What did that mean? How could machine welcome her to a place she had never been? The journey took 3 days. On the morning of the 4th day, Dao Yun's voice came over the speakers, approaching the coordinates. "You should see it now." Yuna walked to the front of the ship and looked through the window. The dead star hung in space like a dark eye, giving off no light. Around it orbited a small gray moon, covered in craters and shadows. But there was something else. Something that made Yuna's breath stop. Built into the side of the moon was a structure. It was massive, larger than any building Yuna had ever seen. Its walls were made of the same dark metal as the scanner, and golden symbols covered every surface. Even from this distance, Yuna could see them glowing. "The Architect Vault," Elder Suri said softly. She had joined them on the journey, unable to resist seeing the discovery with her own eyes. "It is more beautiful than I imagined." They landed near the entrance. The air outside was thin but breathable. Someone, long ago, had made sure of that. The entrance was a single door, 30 meters tall. It was sealed shut, without any visible way to open it. Commander Taiwan stepped forward and pushed against it. Nothing happened. Minho tried his weapons. The energy beams bounced off the metal like it was nothing. Elder Suri pressed her crystal hands against the surface and closed her eyes. After a long moment, she shook her head. "I cannot sense anything. The door is completely sealed." They all looked at Yun. She walked toward the door slowly. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was strangely calm. She thought about her grandmother, who always said that Yuna was special, but she was meant for great things. She thought about her mother, who cried when Yuna left for the academy. She thought about Earth, her small blue planet that had kept humanity safe for thousands of years. She placed her hand on the door. The symbols exploded with light. The ground shook. The door made a sound like thunder, and slowly, impossibly, it began to open. Beyond the door was darkness. Then, one by one, lights began to turn on. They stretched into the distance, revealing a chamber so vast that Yuna could not see the end. They walked inside. The vault was filled with treasures. Not gold or jewels, but something far more valuable. There were star maps showing routes to places the Galactic Fleet had never visited. There were blueprints for ships that could travel faster than anything known today. There were weapons, tools, medical devices, all far beyond current technology. And there were records. Thousands of them, stored in glowing crystals that floated in the air, waiting to be read. "This is impossible," Minho whispered. "This is more advanced than anything we have. More advanced than anything anyone has." "Not impossible," Elder Suri said. Her voice was filled with emotion. "This is what we lost. What the galaxy lost when the architects disappeared." Commander Taiwan walked to one of the floating crystals and touched it. An image appeared in the air. It showed the architects building the first space stations, creating the star routes, meeting other species for the first time. "They were teachers," he said. "They shared their knowledge. They helped everyone. Until the great darkness came," Elder Suri added. "And then they were gone." Yuna walked deeper into the vault. Something was calling to her. She could feel it, like a voice in her blood. She followed the feeling until she reached the center of the chamber. There, on a raised platform, was a single crystal. It was different from the others. It was larger, darker, and it pulsed with a slow, steady light. Yuna reached out and touched it. Light surrounded her. Images flooded her mind. She saw the architects at the height of their power. She saw them fleeing from the darkness. She saw them landing on Earth, hiding their technology, living simple lives so they would not be found. And then she heard a voice. "If you are seeing this, then our children have returned. We are the architects. We built this galaxy and watched it grow. When the darkness came, we thought all was lost. But we saved what we could. We saved ourselves. We became something new, something hidden, something waiting. The voice grew stronger. We left our knowledge in this vault, our technology, our hopes. We knew that one day our descendants would find it. One day they would be ready to take back what was lost. The light faded. Yuna stood alone on the platform, tears running down her face. Commander Taiwan and the others had gathered around her. Their faces were filled with wonder. "What did you see?" Taiwan asked. Yuna wiped her eyes. "A message. From the architects. From our ancestors." "What did it say?" She looked at them. At Taiwan, who had served the fleet his entire life. At Elder Sori, who had studied ancient history for centuries. At Do-Yun and Minho, who were just trying to understand what was happening. It said, "Welcome home," Yuna whispered. It said, "We are ready." Elder Suri walked to the edge of the platform and looked out at the vault. Thousands of crystals floated in the air, each one containing knowledge that could change everything. "The elder races will not accept this easily," she said. "For thousands of years, they believed they were the leaders of this galaxy. Learning that humans were the original masters will shake the foundation of everything they know. Then we will show them," Taiwan said. His voice was firm. "We will share this knowledge, just like the architects did. We will not use it for power. We will use it for everyone." Yuna nodded. She understood now. This was not about ruling. It was not about being special. It was about bringing something back that had been lost. It was about making the galaxy whole again. She looked at the crystal in her hand. The message was still there, waiting to be shared. "Our children will return," she said softly. "And now we have." The archives were located deep beneath the academy. Yuna followed Commander Taiwan and Elder Sori through a series of long hallways that seemed to go down forever. The walls were made of dark stone, and strange lights floated in the air, guiding their way. "Few people have been here," Elder Suri said as they walked. The archives contain records from before the Galactic Fleet existed, before most civilizations were born. Only the Council and senior scholars have access. "Until today," Taiwan added. He glanced at Yuna. "Your clearance level opens every door in this building. Probably every door in the galaxy." Yuna did not respond. She was too busy looking at the walls. The same symbols from the scanner were carved here, thousands of them, covering every surface. They seemed to pulse with faint light as she passed. They reached a large metal door. It was covered in golden symbols, and there was no handle, no lock, nothing that showed how to open it. Elder Suri stepped forward and placed her crystal hand on the door. Nothing happened. Commander Taiwan tried next. Still nothing. They both turned to Yuna. She understood. She walked to the door and raised her hand. Before she could touch it, the symbols began to glow. The door made a deep sound, like a giant breathing in, and slowly swung open. Beyond the door was a room filled with light. Yuna had to shield her eyes for a moment. When she could see again, she gasped. The room was enormous. Pillars of white crystal rose from the floor to the ceiling, each one covered in glowing symbols. Between the pillars were floating screens showing images, maps, and text in a language Yuna did not recognize. In the center of the room was a large platform with a circular device on top. It looked like the scanner from the registration hall, but much bigger and more complex. "The Hard Archive," Elder Suri whispered. "I have read about this place in old texts. I never believed I would see it. What is it?" Yuna asked. "The memory of the architects. Everything they knew, everything they built, everything they were. It is all stored here." They walked toward the central platform. As Yuna got closer, the floating screens began to change. The strange symbols were replaced by images, ships, planets, people. The people looked human. "Commander," Yuna said, her voice shaking. "Look at this." Taiwan stood beside her, staring at the screen. The image showed a man and a woman standing on a green planet. They had brown skin, black hair, and dark eyes. They could have been Yuna's neighbors in Bizen. "The architects," Elder Suri said softly. "They were human." "That cannot be right," Taiwan said. "Humans developed space travel only a few centuries ago. We were primitive when these archives were built. Were you?" Elder Suri moved to another screen. This one showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked thousands of locations. "These are architect colonies. 12,000 years ago, they controlled most of the galaxy. They built the star routes. They created the technology that every species uses today. They were the first great civilization." "Then what happened to them?" Yuna asked. Elder Suri touched the screen, and the image changed. It showed a dark cloud spreading across the stars, consuming everything in its path. Planets went dark. Ships disappeared. The red dots vanished one by one. "The Great Darkness," Elder Suri said. "We have heard stories, but we never knew the truth. Something came. Something that destroyed the architects. Wiped them from existence. Or so we thought." She turned to Yuna. "But they did not all die. Some escaped. Some hid. They fled to the edges of the galaxy, to small planets where no one would look for them." She pointed at another screen. It showed a blue planet with one moon. "Earth." Yuna felt like the ground was moving under her feet. "Are you saying that humans are the architects? That we are the ones who built all of this?" "Not exactly," Elder Suri said. "You are their descendants. Their children. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors fled the Great Darkness and found a new home. They lost their technology. They lost their memories. They started over. They became what you call humanity." Commander Taiwan sat down heavily on the platform's edge. His face was pale. 15 years ago, when humans first made contact with the Galactic Fleet, we were treated like newcomers. Like children who had just learned to walk. All this time, we were the original ones. "Not just the original ones," Elder Suri said. "The masters. The architects designed this galaxy. They created the systems to govern it. And they left their mark in their children's blood." She looked at Yuna. "In your blood. But why me?" Yuna asked. "There are billions of humans. Why did the scanner recognize me?" Elder Suri walked to the central device. She studied it for a moment, then pressed a series of symbols. A beam of light shot up from the platform and formed an image in the air. It was a family tree, branching out in thousands of directions. "The architects did not leave randomly," Elder Suri explained. "They left in groups, families, and one family was more important than the others. The ruling family. The ones who held the highest authority." She pointed at the image. "Their genetic line has been passed down through generations. Diluted over time, but never lost." The image zoomed in on one branch of the tree. At the very end was a single dot, glowing brighter than all the others. "That is you," Elder Suri said. "You carry the blood of the architect rulers, the original masters of this galaxy. That is why the scanner recognized you. That is why it granted you the highest clearance." Yuna stared at the glowing dot. She thought of her parents selling fish in Bizan. She thought of her grandmother, who used to tell her stories about the stars. She thought of her great-grandmother and all the generations before her, living simple lives on Earth, never knowing what they once were. "I do not want to rule anything," she said quietly. "I just wanted to fly ships." Commander Taiwan stood up and walked to her. His expression had changed. The fear was gone. Now, there was something like respect. What you want and what you are may be two different things, he said. But one thing is clear. This changes everything. For you, for humanity, for the entire galaxy. What do we do now? Yuna asked. Elder Suri touched another symbol. A new image appeared. It showed a massive vault, sealed with golden doors. There is one more place you must go, she said. The Architect Vault. It has been sealed for 12,000 years. No one has been able to open it. She looked at Yuna with ancient eyes. Until now. Yuna looked at the image of the vault. Whatever was inside had been waiting for thousands of years. Waiting for someone with the right blood to return. Waiting for her. She took a deep breath. Then let us open it. The sealed hall was quiet, but Yuna could feel the tension in the air. The other cadets stood in small groups, whispering and stealing glances at her. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. A few looked angry, as if she had done something wrong. Commander Taiwan stood near the scanner with 3 other officers. They spoke in low voices, their faces serious. Every few seconds, one of them would look at Yuna, then look away. Yuna sat on a bench near the wall. Her hands were shaking, so she pressed them against her knees to keep them still. She wanted to ask questions, but no one was talking to her. She felt like a criminal waiting for judgment. Ji-hoon appeared beside her. He sat down without asking permission. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I do not know, Yuna admitted. I do not understand what happened. Neither does anyone else. Ji-hoon looked around the hall. I have been listening. The officers are confused. They have never seen master clearance before. Some of them did not even know it existed. Is it bad? I do not think so. But it is strange. He paused. The scanner is ancient. They say the architects built it. The architects? An old civilization. They disappeared thousands of years ago. No one knows what happened to them. But they left things behind, technology, buildings, that scanner. Ji-hoon nodded toward the dark pillar. Some people think they created the first galactic routes, the paths between stars that we use today. Yuna looked at the scanner. The golden symbols had faded, but she could still see them carved into the metal. They looked like writing, but not any writing she recognized. Why would their machine give me master clearance? She asked. I am nobody. I have never even left Earth before this year. Ji-hoon shrugged. Maybe it made a mistake. Machines do not make mistakes. Old machines might. Before Yuna could respond, Commander Taiwan walked toward them. Ji-hoon stood up quickly and saluted. Yuna did the same. At ease, Taiwan said. He looked at Ji-hoon. Leave us. Ji-hoon hesitated, then nodded. Yes, sir. He gave Yuna a small look of encouragement before walking away. Taiwan sat down on the bench beside Yuna. For a moment, he did not speak. He just stared at the scanner with tired eyes. I have been in the fleet for 30 years, he said finally. I have seen many strange things. Planets that sing. Stars that move on their own. Species that live for 10,000 years. He turned to look at her. But I have never seen what happened today. Sir, I do not know why the scanner responded that way. I did nothing. I believe you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. It looked like a tablet, but older, with buttons instead of a touch screen. This is a portable scanner. Different technology. Made by the Valkyrie about 200 years ago. We use it when the main scanner is being repaired. He held it toward Yuna. May I? She nodded. Tae-1 pressed a button. A red light moved over Yuna's face. The device beeped once. Human, female. Access level, Cadet. Yuna felt relief wash over her. See? I am normal. The main scanner must be broken. Taiwan did not look relieved. That is what worries me, sir. The Valkyrie scanner reads your body. Your fingerprints, your eyes, your blood. It sees what you are now. He pointed at the ancient pillar. That scanner reads something deeper. Something in your genetic code. Something passed down through generations. He paused. It sees what you were meant to be. Yuna felt cold. What are you saying? I am saying that the scanner did not make a mistake. It found something in you. Something that grants master clearance. The question is, what? A door opened, and a tall alien walked in. She was Thelian, her body made of living crystal that shimmered in the light. She wore the robes of a scholar, not a soldier. Her name was Elder Suri, and she was one of the oldest members of the Academy Council. Commander Taiwan, she said. Her voice sounded like glass chimes. I came as quickly as I could. Taiwan stood. Elder Suri, thank you for coming. The Thelian walked to the scanner and placed a crystal hand on its surface. She closed her eyes. For several seconds, she did not move. Then she opened her eyes and looked at Yuna. Remarkable, she whispered. What did you find? Taiwan asked. The scanner is not broken. It is functioning perfectly. In fact, it is more active now than it has been in centuries. She turned to face them fully. This machine was built by the architects over 12,000 years ago. We have always assumed the master clearance was a legend, a myth, a level that no one could reach because the architects were gone. But the girl triggered it, Taiwan said. Yes, Elder Suri looked at Yuna with something like wonder. Her genetic signature matches a pattern stored deep in the scanner's memory. A pattern that predates every species in the galactic fleet. A pattern from the time of the architects themselves. The room fell silent. Yuna stood up slowly. That is impossible. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. We could not have existed 12,000 years ago. You are correct, Elder Suri said. Humans, as we know them, did not exist then. She paused. But something did. Something that left its mark in your blood. Something that the architects considered worthy of the highest access. Taiwan ran a hand through his gray hair. What do we do now? We investigate, Elder Suri said. There are archives. Old records. Places that have been sealed since before any of us were born. She looked at Yuna, and we study her. I am not an experiment, Yuna said. Her voice was stronger now. The fear was fading, replaced by something else. Determination. I came here to be a soldier. A pilot. I did not come here to be studied. Elder Suri smiled. It was a gentle smile, full of old wisdom. No, child. You came here because the universe called you. You just did not know it yet. Yuna did not know how to respond. She looked at Commander Taiwan, hoping for support. He met her eyes. You are still a cadet. That has not changed. But everything else might. He straightened his uniform. For now, you will continue your training. You will speak to no one about what happened here. And you will come with me to the archives tonight. The archives? Yes. His expression was unreadable. It is time to find out who you really are. Yuna nodded slowly. She did not feel ready for this. She was not sure she ever would be. But she had not come across the galaxy to run away from the truth. Whatever was waiting in those archives, she would face it, even if it changed everything she believed about herself. The line moved slowly. Yuna stood with her hands behind her back, watching the cadets ahead of her step forward one by one. The biometric scanner was old. Everyone said so. It was older than the Academy itself, older than the Galactic Fleet, older than any species could remember. But it still worked, and every cadet had to pass through it. Yuna was 22 years old. She came from a small city on Earth called Bizon. Her parents worked in a fish market. They never imagined their daughter would travel across the stars to join the most famous military academy in the galaxy. But here she was, standing in a hall made of white stone, surrounded by aliens she had only seen in books. The cadet in front of her was a Valkyrie. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with blue skin and 4 arms. He stepped onto the platform and the scanner hummed. A soft light moved over his body. After 3 seconds, the machine spoke. Valkyrie, male, age, 47 standard years. Access level, cadet. Clearance granted. The Valkyrie walked through the door on the other side. The next cadet stepped forward. She was a Northie, a small creature with gray fur and large black eyes. The scanner hummed again. Northie, female, age, 31 standard years. Access level, cadet. Clearance granted. Yuna watched each species pass through. There were Thelians with their crystal bodies. There were Draxi with their long tails. There were humans too, but not many. Humanity had only joined the Galactic Fleet 15 years ago. They were still considered newcomers, young, inexperienced. Some of the older species looked at humans like they were children playing a game they did not understand. Yuna did not care what they thought. She had worked hard to be here. She had passed every test. She had beaten thousands of other candidates. She belonged here just as much as anyone else. The line moved again. Now there were only 3 cadets ahead of her. Then 2. Then 1. A human male stepped onto the platform. His name was Ji-hoon. Yuna had met him on the transport ship. He was from Seoul, and he talked too much, but he was kind. The scanner hummed. Human, male, age, 23 standard years. Access level, cadet. Clearance granted. Ji-hoon smiled and walked through. He looked back at Yuna and gave her a small wave. She nodded at him. Now it was her turn. Yuna stepped onto the platform. The stone was cold under her boots. She stood straight and looked ahead. The scanner was a tall pillar of dark metal with strange symbols carved into its surface. No one knew what the symbols meant. No one knew who had built the machine. It had simply always been there. The light appeared. It was soft and blue, like moonlight. It moved over her body, starting at her feet and rising slowly. Yuna held her breath. She did not know why she felt nervous. Thousands of cadets pass through this scanner every year. Nothing ever went wrong. The light reached her chest. Then her neck. Then her face. The humming stopped. Yuna waited. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. The scanner was silent. Someone in the line behind her whispered. Yuna did not move. She kept her eyes forward. Maybe the machine was processing. Maybe it needed more time for humans. She was not an expert. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. The whispers grew louder. Yuna felt sweat on her palms. Something was wrong. The machine had never taken this long before. Suddenly, the scanner made a sound she had never heard. It was like a bell ringing deep underwater. The symbols on the pillar began to glow. They changed from gray to gold, shining so bright that Yuna had to close her eyes. When she opened them, the entire hall was staring at her. The scanner spoke, but its voice was different now. It was deeper, older. It sounded like many voices speaking at once. Human, female, age, 22 standard years. There was a pause. The machine seemed to hesitate. Machines did not hesitate. Access level, master, full clearance granted. Welcome home. The hall fell completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Yuna stood frozen on the platform. She did not understand. Access level master? What did that mean? She was just a cadet. She was nobody. She came from a fish market in Bizen. A door opened at the side of the hall. A man walked out. He was human, older, maybe 50 years old. He wore the uniform of a commander. His face was serious and his eyes were sharp. Yuna recognized him from the orientation videos. Commander Taiwan. He was one of the highest-ranking humans in the Galactic Fleet. He walked directly to the platform and stopped in front of Yuna. "Step down," he said. His voice was calm but firm. Yuna obeyed. Her legs felt weak. Commander Taiwan looked at the scanner, then back at her. "What is your name, Cadet?" "Yuna, sir." "Park Yuna. Where are you from?" "Earth, sir. Bizen." "Family history? Military background?" "No, sir. My parents sell fish." Someone in the crowd laughed nervously. Commander Taiwan did not smile. He turned to a technician standing nearby. "Run the scan again." The technician nodded quickly. "Yes, Commander." Yuna stepped back onto the platform. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. The light moved over her again. The symbols glowed gold again. Access level, Master. Full clearance granted. The same result. Commander Taiwan stared at the machine for a long moment. Then he looked at Yuna with an expression she could not read. It was not anger. It was not confusion. It was something else. Something like fear. "Cadet Park," he said. Slowly, "Do you know what the Master Clearance level means?" "No, sir." "Neither do I." He turned to his officers. "Seal this hall. No one leaves. No one speaks of this until I say so." The doors closed with a heavy sound. Yuna stood alone on the platform, surrounded by hundreds of eyes. She was just a girl from Bizen. She did not understand what was happening, but somewhere deep inside her, in a place she could not name, something stirred. Something old. Something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. And for the first time in her life, Yuna felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be.